There are some games that I always want to review regardless of what the view count is. Today we have one such game with Scrapland Remastered. The original game was released back in 2004 and can be best described as an open world GTA style game featuring robots, ship combat, and a completely unique world to explore. At the time it was met with fairly mixed reviews, although somehow a remastering was released in 2021. I was pleasantly surprised considering how forgotten this game is and how hard it is to run on modern systems. With that said, is this game worth revisiting almost 2 decades later, or was it left better in the past? Before we begin, however, we will all gather together in prayer led by the fine bishops of Scrapland.
May the great algorithm be with you.
Amen. And now let's begin. After you pick your difficulty, you take control of the one and only Tretis, arriving to the planet known as Scrapland. Unique to the planet is the Great Database, which allows any robot to be resurrected as long as they have the funds to buy extra lives. If a robot does not have any lives, they are sent to the brig. Shortly after, during the tutorial, he is given the job of being a journalist and must report to the press building. Tretis is a hard person to describe, honestly, but he is someone who seems to be a decent person and has a good heart and doesn't really get angry or flustered like many of the inhabitants. Quite honestly, he's not the most interesting character, although his kind soul is a nice contrast to the grittiness of Scrapland. What I will say about the characters in this game are the unique designs and personality quirks of every robot. Even the generic bishops and functionaries throughout the world all have a sense of personality to them. It also helps that the game is very well cast, with each voice actor delivering stellar performances throughout. Unfortunately, tracking down the cast is a bit tricky, so I am not able to give any particular shoutouts. As the story progresses, you'll eventually get looped in a murder mystery. This wouldn't be normal news, but the victim's matrix was stolen, meaning that it cannot be resurrected. You'll also be aided by a mysterious informant who will eventually reveal who all the major players are. The story itself is enjoyable all until the final reveal. The journey to find who the culprit is was engaging, but the destination is a bit underwhelming. With the lack of unique robots, there were really not a ton of options that they could have gone with, but it's still underwhelming once the conclusion is reached. Alright, so that's enough of the story and characters. Let's get to the gameplay and what you'll be doing for the most part. As stated prior, the game is an open world separated by various zones and buildings. These can be traversed through the ship as well as on foot via the transit line. First things first, let's start with your ship. You'll start out with a light ship from Rusty, who is the mechanic of this game. When you unlock ships and weapons, you can visit his garage in order to construct the ship. Managing your ship is very easy as you select the engines to use, the weapons to equip, and the amount of hull added to the ship. There are also 6 weapons to use, all with their own unique use cases, although you'll only start with one and have to unlock the rest via completing main quests. It's pretty simple to set up your ship, but it is a nice break from the more hardcore space sims out there. Piloting your ship feels pretty awesome as you're able to use a boost to get through and a basic laser that can double up as a tractor beam / slingshot. Using it against walls or the roads can help you gain momentum and keep up with speed. This is very important, especially for racing events. Combat also feels great, blasting away ships with a wide array of weaponry. What ends up making the second half of the gameplay are the on-foot sections. This is when you're in a building of some kind and can interact with the various characters of the world. Outside of asking questions and completing missions, you can also challenge robots to a combat challenge or a race, which will require you to put up a wager. Be warned though that higher bets will result in harder challenges. What really made Scrapland stand out to me all these years prior is the ability to hack into the Great Database. This allows you to turn into almost any character within the game world and even use each robot's unique ability. Out of all the characters and abilities, my favorite goes to Betty for having the ability to basically kill any robot with her AoE attack. It's incredibly devastating and can be an easy way to collect that cash money, boy. Almost everything you do in the game costs some cash money, boy, also known as scraps in this game. This includes building ships, fixing ships, adding weapons, adding engines, increasing hull, and buying extra lives from the bishop. The easiest way to gain money in Scrapland is to take out various ships and characters. You'll then just need to move over to the money icon that appears and you'll have some more cash to spend. This, however, will most likely attract the attention of police and will need to be dealt with accordingly. You can try to brute force the cops when piloting your craft, but the best strategy is to run away and to wait for the wanted meter to reach 0. Eventually, you'll have the ability to participate in crazy bets. These are bonus tasks that can be accomplished to eventually unlock a super crazy bet. A super crazy bet can be a variety of things, ranging from pure combat all the way to racing. This will net you an upgrade to a weapon, which are often beneficial and worth getting if you can. There are 12 upgrades to collect, meaning there are 12 super crazy bets to complete. It's a decent amount of content here, and the crazy bets are unique enough to keep things fresh and interesting. And now onto the remastering, which is where I feel like they dropped the ball on this one. As expected, Scrapland now supports up to 4K resolution. Due to technical limitations with the engine used, there is a hard limit on VRAM that the game can use, which is about 2 gigabytes. Thankfully, this game was always very well optimized, as I never had any frame rate issues. The game also still looks great, especially in buildings where the colors used really stand out. My personal favorite highlight is being within the temple building and its purple color hue. Still, it's a shame that the game could have looked so much better with a bit more time put into the remaster. I also wish they just fixed some of the mismatched subtitles. Oftentimes the characters will say something that doesn't match 100% with the subtitles. This can be an altered word or two, which I believe could have been easily corrected. Also wish some of the more lackluster missions could have been tweaked a bit to not be as long, or at least more tolerable in some degree. Thankfully, the music here is still fan-freaking-tastic. So many memorable tracks in this one, especially during high action moments. It captures the essence of a robotic society and the various environments Tretis will be able to witness throughout the game. In terms of overall game length, I clocked in about 12 hours within this playthrough, which included the main story and all but 2 of the super crazy bets available. According to howlongtobeat.com, the average time is about 14 hours and 30 minutes. It may seem short compared to today's standards, but I felt that the game was an adequate length, and any longer would have overstayed its welcome. Before I wrap this up, I should mention the multiplayer component. Basically, it's more space combat with various modes similar to the ones found in the super crazy bets. The multiplayer scene was never very active even in its heyday, so don't expect much people here either. You can also pick from any ship in the game, which is a nice touch. Other than that, not much here to talk about. Overall, Scrapland is still an amazing title many years later. While the conclusion of the plot is a bit lackluster in comparison to the journey, and the remastering is a bit disappointing, Scrapland still is a ton of fun. Ship combat is awesome, swapping characters is pretty cool, and the whole world and vibe of Scrapland is a unique one that is worth experiencing. Personally, I've always hoped for a sequel, but unfortunately the sales never met the expectations to demand one. I would have loved to have had a more extended Scrapland, visiting even more locales and buildings to find. Still, what we have here is definitely worth playing. Thank you everyone for watching as always, and this is Powerhouse, signing off.